Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Modern Cavewoman Show. So last week I read a book. It was called Run Your Life Like a Business. And it sounded like a kind of awful philosophy to me, but the title intrigued me, so I read the introduction, and her backstory was so outrageous to me that I just had to read the book. Like, I just had to get the book and find out what she had to say because I couldn't imagine having what happened to her happen twice and write a book to tell other women how to pull your life together. It was like, wow, this woman is extraordinary. So basically, her story was that she was married and they bought a house. He was unemployed, and so she was going to be paying the bills. She paid all the bills, and the bank put the mortgage in her husband's name only. And she said, wait, shouldn't my name be on it? I'm the one who's actually making the payments. He's not contributing financially at all to the household. And they told her, nope, don't worry about it. You're married, and this is just how we do it. So, of course, years later, he had never paid a cent. But when they got divorced, she lost everything because she didn't own it. Her name wasn't on it. So, fast forward, she ends up in another long-term relationship with a man, and he's on disability. So they don't get married because he didn't want to lose his benefits. So they lived together but kept everything separate. No kids, nothing at all like that. And when they broke up, he sued her, claiming a de facto marriage. And she lost a majority of her assets to him. He got awarded her property and assets. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't imagine having this happen to me twice. I mean, to go through that twice is just inconceivable to me. So, of course, I read her book because she brilliantly put it together in 52 chapters, one thing to work on every week for a year to pull your life together from like rock bottom. And I thought, well, if anyone knows, it's got to be this lady, right? And so I read the book, and one really great thing that I totally loved was that she included additional resources on each topic. So she tells her story, what she learned, what works for her advice, basically, right? And then here's expert resources if you want to go learn more. So I was jotting all of them down, of course, to look them up after I got to the end of the book. And when I did get to the end, I looked at the list and I noticed like about 100 resources, all were from men except for four. One, two, three, four women that she had recommended for further information out of all of these resources throughout this whole book, 52 chapters, where she gave multiple resources in each. So I didn't count the total number of references, only the total number of women. So I was just kind of wobbly about it. Now, I'm not passing judgment on what she chose to put in her book, by the way. The resources she gave were obviously things that she found valuable and were helpful to her. Some of them were totally classic books written in 1922 by, the big monopoly men who owned everything. And I don't doubt that they knew how to manage money, right? One that kind of stood out to me, though, that was interesting, a little side note, when she was talking about clothing and fashion, the reference she gave was a man, John something, who wrote this book about fashion in 1975. And I crossed that one off the list. That's why I can't remember his last name because I thought I'm not going to read a book written by some guy in 1975 to help me with my wardrobe right now. That just isn't my vibe. But it was it stuck out to me because I thought for fashion, I would like, advice from a contemporary woman with classic style or a quirky style or whatever it is. And so that's where I started to look at the list and I thought, she's given this lovely list and I'm sure it's all fine. I'm not trying to criticize her. And let me be very clear about that. I'm not criticizing this. It's just that from my lens of the world right now, where I'm looking for more balance, I'm looking for more women's voices, I'm looking for more women to mentor me and to mentor other women because men dominate everything, including this list, right? I was looking at this, it's like out of 100 resources, it was 95% men dominating it. And I thought, surely there are plenty of women who are experts in things like how to organize your day, how to organize your house, creating healthy habits, managing finances, right? And creating new relationships, making new friends. She covers all these different things. And so that's my point today. Actually, my point is to ask you, my ladies, to step up. Step up with me because I'm not here to just boss you around. I'm going to step it up on my side of the road. And I want to do everything I can to encourage you to step it up in the biggest way you can as well. To share your wisdom, share your knowledge, even if it's just tips and tricks on how to make things a little bit easier in life, and share this with other women because as valuable as the information and advice that we can get from men is, we walk in two different ways through this world. We have to be honest about this. Just even on a basic existence level, men don't get periods and cramps. Men don't get pregnant, right? So, just on a basic level, we have these differences in how we must move through the world. And likewise, men have their things, right? They have their organ situations that we don't have to deal with that lets them walk through the world in a different way. So I'm not trying to say like scary things. I'm just saying there's a difference. And then on top of that, we have social constructs, social expectations that are different between men and women, social conditions that have existed for thousands of years that were created specifically to control women, to not allow us to have finances of our own. Until the 70s, women couldn't have their own bank account or credit card. So I wasn't really surprised that this lady's first story was of getting a mortgage and having to put it in her husband's name because that may have actually even been the law. I don't think she said what year it was, but by law, women weren't allowed to own property for so long, right? So we really are in a time right now where things are becoming more equal, things are balancing out. And that's why I feel so good about encouraging you all to step up a little bit, put a toe in the water, or do a cannonball and jump right in. Start a blog, start a podcast, write a magazine article, host a little workshop for your friends in the neighborhood, whatever degree you feel comfortable doing it, writing a book, teaching courses, starting a business, and helping other women in whatever way you can. I would just really love to see that more. I would love to see books written by women for women who reference expert women in these different topics that are upheld as an authority in their business or in their topic, whatever it is that they do for their work, right? Whatever knowledge it is they hold to be seen as an authority equal to the men who are seen as authorities in these things and have been for hundreds of years, right? So that's where I am today. I'm just a little bit fired up about balancing things out. I I just really feel like when, as women, we can share our perspective and our wisdom with other women, it makes everything so much better because men can't speak to how hard it is to sit through a week long meeting when you have cramps and you're worrying about your leakage through your pants, right? But for so long, we haven't been able to talk about it openly, at least in circles where I've been, where women were actually embarrassed and ashamed. And I mean, you hear all the stories of not even wanting to crinkle a wrapper to open a pad or a tampon in the bathroom because then everyone knows you have your period or whatever it is. And the reasons, the underlying reasons for that, all that goes with it. You know what I'm talking about, ladies. You know what I'm talking about. And so there we go. I'll just sum it up real quick. I want to encourage you to start sharing your wisdom if you're not already. And if you are sharing your wisdom, let me know. Share it in the comments, share it on socials with me. Let me help spread your word in whatever way I can. I would love to do that because I really do think that we have a big opportunity right now to balance out what's seen as an authority and balance out the information that's available to other women that can help them succeed exponentially. Because sometimes just knowing that, oh, yeah, this thing is actually normal. As a woman, this thing happens that we haven't been able to talk about in the past, whether out of embarrassment or being suppressed in whatever way. It can be really helpful. And I'll talk about it in a future podcast that I actually had a woman, I was struggling with something, and another woman said, "Oh, yeah, that happens to me all the time." And I was like, "What?" Every doctor I'd been to was telling me what a freak I was, and this woman was like, "Oh, no, yeah, me and my sisters, my aunts, we all talk about it. This happens all the time. It's just part of being a woman." Wow, it changed my life. It literally changed my life. It literally let me give myself permission to not feel like I was a completely broken person. That it was like, oh, this is just something that's going to happen and I'm going to deal with it because I'm a woman and that's what life is like. Okay. So, this is why another reason, if you have anything to talk about, please talk about it. And so, I have a resource for you, by the way. If you would like to start a podcast or a blog, let me know. I have a resource for you. And if you let me know through this podcast, I will give it to you free. It's a course on how to start a podcast in one day. I literally put all of everything I learned starting my podcast up into a course and a nice big workbook where you can take the workbook and just follow along page by page. You can literally start your podcast in just a few hours, depending on how fancy you want to make it. And I would encourage you to start simple and get fancier as you go along. But I'll tell you truthfully, one of the reasons, probably the main reason that I started my podcast was to talk about things that I want to talk about, but the people in my life just weren't really interested in. So, you don't have to already have an audience. You don't have to already have people begging for your wisdom to put it out there and let it help whoever finds it, whoever needs it will find it. And we all need to hear things in different ways too. And I want to say, if you're thinking, oh, I'm not an expert, or I'm not eloquent enough, or I'm not brave enough, or I'm not bold enough, or I'm not whatever enough, let me tell you this. You are enough. However your voice sounds, whatever you look like, however you speak, there is someone who's going to hear that. There's probably a lot of women who is going to hear and see you and feel comfortable learning from you exactly because that's who you are. Exactly because you aren't perfect and polished and intimidating, because there's enough people out there perfect and polished and intimidating who think that they are just the be all end all. And they're not actually helping some of the people who really need the help the most, because the people who need the help the most are going, well, I'm not that caliber, I'm not at that level in this whatever it is. I can't, right? Like I can't even get my head around it. And so this is something I have learned through my business is that I am obviously not perfect. I go off on tangents, I stumble on my words, all sorts of fun stuff. And yet I have been told that it's a good thing. It makes other people feel comfortable to not be held to such a high standard of perfection, to not feel belittled, to not feel inferior, to be able to look at someone and learn from them, like your favorite aunt or an older cousin or whatever it is, someone who knows something that you want to know, someone who can help you with something in your life, who's not going to make you feel like you're an idiot about it, right? So I think I'm going to wind it up with that. Let me look at my notes because I did make notes on this since it was a book and I wanted to give it a fair review. So I would actually recommend the book in general if you are starting at zero in your life and you need to figure out how to create a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly schedule, how to, have get your doctor's appointments in order, get your finances in order, create a budget, meal planning. She talks about meal planning. She talks about kids and marriage and divorce, obviously, and relationships and things like that. She talks about growing a garden, um, organizing your house, using a habit tracker, all sorts of great stuff. And, their textbook processes, I didn't see anything earth-shattering for me, but of course, I'm in a place in my life where I've already been using budgets and habit trackers and organizing my home for many, many years. So if you're just starting out and you need some get your stuff together from a ground zero, I think it's a great book. And I like how she laid it out in 52 chapters. So you can work on one thing a week, so it's not high pressure, but yet it's a time frame where it's like in 1 year, I'm going to have it together, right? That feels good to me. And of course, the resources she includes, check them out because they're valuable, they're good information. And there, that's it. So the book was good. My takeaway from it was, ladies, we need to become authorities. We need to become experts, and we need to hold ourselves up to that. And we need to mentor each other. We need to create spaces, even if it's just a Facebook group with your friends where you post once a week about tips and tricks you've learned about how to, get your, I don't know, magic bullet with multiple cups and fill your cups with your shake mix, whatever it is, right? I saw this lady that just yesterday. She was like, every morning she was getting up and a scoop of this and a scoop of that out of all these different containers. And then she woke up one day and she was like, why don't I just put all the ingredients in a little baggie? So all I have to do is dump the baggie in the blender, add some almond milk and ice, and I'm ready to go. And I thought these are the things we need to share with each other because it's not some kind of earth-shattering epiphany necessarily, but it's definitely something that I looked at and I thought, yeah, that makes sense. I've got 5 cups for my magic bullet. Why don't I put my scoops of whatever in them? And then every morning you just add, whatever else to it that that isn't shelf stable, I guess, or keep them in the fridge if you want to, and then you just buzz them up and you got your smoothie in the morning. Like, ah, brilliant. Not that I might not have ever thought of that myself, but to have someone share that and make my life that much easier was super valuable. So that's a little tangent. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm going off on a little tangent. So here's my call to action for you. First off, if you have anything you want to talk about, I would highly encourage you, if you don't already have a blog, post it on social media. Post every day on social media, even if you want to. That's totally cool. Or start a podcast. If you want to start a podcast, tell me. I will give you my course for free. It's less than an hour of video where I talk about things. I give you a little bit more insight and behind the scenes. And it's got the workbook that you can follow step by step that has schedules, literally like wake up in the morning, the first hour do this, the second hour do this, the third hour do this, take a break for lunch, come back and do this. I have prompts if you want to use AI like ChatGPT or Copilot, something like that. I have plug and play prompts to help you get a draft so that, if you want to have it help generate a rough draft. I wouldn't consider it a finished product because you're going to want it to be in your own voice. But, for things like a description, a title that you're going to need, Facebook posts, things like that. So let me know. I'll give that to you free. And you can use it for a blog as well because podcasts and blogs are very similar. And I think that's all I have for you today. So leave me a comment, send me a message. I'll give you my course for free if you'd like it. It's usually $97. When I launched it, I did an introductory price of $7, which I may run that again because I am so passionate about getting more women's voices out there. So free is a really good deal. It's $100 program for free if you mention that you heard it through this podcast. Amazing, right? And have a great day. I'm going to leave you with that. Have a beautiful week. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.